Three, two, one. Sengoku Dao.
Dao.
All right.
Sengoku Dao. What up?
Thank you, Joe. Welcome to my channel, Joe.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah, so today we have a special guest, the founder from LunarCrush, Joe.
Awesome, man. Thanks for doing it. It's Saturday over there, right?
It is Saturday here in Tokyo, and it's Friday in LA.
Yeah. 6:18 p.m. over here. Just finishing the week out.
Okay, so you're in Los Angeles, LA, right?
Yeah, Orange County. So just south of there.
I love that place. I've been there a couple
Beautiful.
times. Yeah.
Very beautiful.
All right, Joe. So I have a lot of questions today to you. You know, a lot of my friends asking me, who is Joe and what's LunarCrush, right? So before talking about the project, you know, I want to ask about yourself. You know, maybe can you this viewer are Japanese mainly, so can you maybe describe yourself, your introduction, and then how you got into Web3 space?
Sure. Yeah, no, I actually found Bitcoin in 2015. It was my co-founder, John, came up to me one day and we were working together and he's like, hey, do you have any Bitcoin? And I was like, what's that? And, as the story goes, you start going down that rabbit hole, you start to, I'm very curious, I would say. So I want to understand how that technology works. What is this thing? Who are the people that are involved with it? Where is it at, in the life cycle of adoption? Just all of those things started kind of like flowing through my mind. And like, I feel like I'm an entrepreneur at heart. And so for me, it was always, what's the, what do we go build in this space once I've kind of understood what it was and the impact, that solving this kind of double spend problem would have. And so, over the next like year or two, we just kind of kept chatting about it, kept trying to figure out what are we building in this space. And, based on our talents and where the market was and, what we saw, it was really came down to, how do we understand the difference between, a project that's being launched today and one that's been around for a long time. And, when there are no fundamentals really in this space, or there's starting to be more, and there's starting to be a little bit more of a way that people understand value. At the time, it was, I think some of these founders aren't even like doxed, like you don't even know it's like an avatar, and we still have that today. And so it, with the decentralized nature of the way that the industry works, it just became about the community and understanding what the community is doing kind of at scale and connecting people in that community and why did that matter. And so for me, it's like very eclectic background of, a finance degree, but, came out of school in 2008 and, over here in the US and then I know a lot of places in the world at that time, it was the mortgage crisis was starting and, I wanted to go work on Wall Street, or at least thought I did. Really glad I didn't. But that didn't happen. Obviously, a lot of the banks that I wanted to go work at are now out of business, and, started my journey there and just kind of always stayed curious and asked a lot of questions wherever I ended up and, wanted to always get a lot of different experience out there and see a lot of industries, visit a lot of places and really get perspective on, how are people building things and where have the successes been and what are kind of like, is there any repeatability, I guess, around like startup and everything else. So I've always just been curious about that. It's always tough with startup because it's like, I feel like by the time I started my career, it was like, everyone wanted to be a founder, like it was like sexy or whatnot. And as like someone that's always been like, I don't want to do what anyone else is doing, it was like, kind of almost hard for me to go down that path because I was like, but it was just something was pulling me. And so, I realized like I am an entrepreneur at heart, and building and adapting and being a part of the Web3 space is, I can't think of a more fun and exciting and open industry to be an entrepreneur in. So I'm just like really lucky to be building the space and building something fun with a lot of cool people that I like to build with.
Cool. Joe, I have a question. Is the LunarCrush the very first project to involve in the Web3 space, or was there any prior project you involved before?
This is the first one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about LunarCrush. It's what people want to know, I think. Yeah. So maybe can you describe what's it's all about, what's the project, its concept, and its vision in the long term. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So we, like I kind of was touching on, it was how do you understand what's happening, in real time across a lot of these projects, and especially it's pretty cool because when you think about the projects that are being launched, there's, obviously a million different applications for what's going on and what people are building. You've got, layer ones, you've got Bitcoin, you've got wallets, you've got exchanges, you've got DeFi, you've got different tokens that are integrated into different platforms that, you've got GameFi and SocialFi, you've got all of these things. And so it's really trying to understand, the difference between some of these projects at scale for a community. So what LunarCrush does is we're basically aggregating and pulling in all of the different social media data that's crypto specific. So at any given day, there could be a couple million posts across things like Twitter and Reddit, YouTube, all the news out there. And so what has a community out there to us means how many individuals are out there talking about what's going on. And then, how many mentions, like unique mentions are out there. And then maybe what's the virality of that over time. And then who are the specific influencers or KOLs that are in the space that are talking about some of these things. And so for us, it was started as kind of this social listening tool, and it's turned into a kind of research platform that people come to understand the market in more detail when you're looking at the market with different data points. And so community is a really big deal. When we started, we kind of coined this phrase, without a community, there is no crypto. And, since then, it's like everyone just talks about community and talks about the importance of it. And, 2020 kind of comes around with COVID and Wall Street bets here, like in the US, with some stuff that went on with a GameStop and everything else. People started to, at least on the mainstream, kind of understand what we did, which was, wow, like retail has some power here and you're going to want to pay attention to this. And, a lot of the, I would say, large hedge funds in the space or traditional space or whatnot, they've always kind of been looking at social and they've got these kind of custom applications, but no one really ever went out there at scale for retail and kind of democratize the opportunity across social. And so what comes with that is a couple of different things. We've created this brand in the Web3 and crypto space where, we're kind of bringing together a lot of different types of people who use LunarCrush. It's not just, people out there trying to find projects, it's the projects themselves that are a part of LunarCrush and kind of, log in and they're updating their pages and everything else. And they're trying to understand, like, is what they're doing having impact? You've got exchanges utilizing it to try and figure out maybe who they list next. You've got larger funds and other people that are looking at it from a more kind of institutional standpoint. And then you've got retail investors as well, who are out there just, and we're just out there to provide like the cleanest source of social intelligence possible.
Right. Thank you. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, what's the origin, Joe? Like, were you the first only member who came up with this concept, or were you had any friends or core members, initially when you start? Was there any story behind it, the origin of this project? Yeah.
I mean, there were four of us, and it was like any good idea. There's, in my mind, like all good ideas kind of happen, and then it's like that almost doesn't matter. It's like, can you build it? Yes or no. But the four of us kind of just talked, and we just kind of started to kind of spitball ideas on, like, is this possible? Can we, pull this data together in a real way to understand what's going on? Can we do it in real time? Can we display it in a way that makes sense to someone that doesn't understand why this data matters or why social matters? And so it was like, it's always just kind of a noodling, I guess. And when you're starting something brand new, it's kind of like, it starts as an idea, then it's like, okay, it turns into a little bit more. And that's why I always say for new founders, it's always nice to have a couple of people involved, because it's hard, it's tough. I would say it's like for the first year of what we were kind of pulling stuff together, there was nothing there. So it's like at some point, someone, you want someone to carry the ball. When someone kind of drops it, or someone says, I'm tired right now, or whatever it may be, it's really good to have kind of multiple founders out there. But I mean, there were four of us, and we just kind of kept pushing the ball down the field. And, we had a lot of ideas. It was like we were going to build something, and it just mattered of, what did we think that we could build that would matter? We just knew we wanted to build something in the space. We knew the space was, we wanted to be involved. And I think a lot of people that kind of get bit by that bug, they get the same thing, and they just look at the market and they go, oh man, like what do I want to build? For us, it was still very early too. So it was not like we weren't like trying to like join a company in the space. It was like, you build something in the space right now. Like there's not, and like back then it was, I mean, I still feel like it's early. And, you know, now that we've had a company out there for a couple of years, it's crazy to kind of think about, but that was like so early, which is not even like the earliest of the early, like, you know, 2016, 2017 is like, you know, Bitcoin was already around for 7 years. It's crazy to think about. But it was like all technology, it takes time, especially as impactful and disruptive as a technology that, you know, the like blockchain technology is, you know, it took time. So it was like, you know, I feel pretty lucky to have gravitated towards it at a time where my skill set and the team skill set of kind of translating it potentially for the rest of the world is kind of taking hold.
Cool. Did you expect to become who you are right now back in 3 years ago? I don't know, like in this space right now, this position.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did. I mean, you never think, you know, you always think that there's a small percentage chance that anything is going to happen. Like any, you know, I would be a fool to say that I, you know, out of any, you know, it's like any sort of like venture company or any startup, it's like, you know, 99% fail, you know, maybe 1%, like, you know, make some sort of impact, and then like 0.01%, you know, turn into some sort of unicorn. But, you know, there was like a timing, you know, there was like a history and like where like the team and the founders were at and the expertise that they had, that like, I felt like we had a really good chance. You know, I felt like there was a nice balance there that like, it could be something. So you always kind of just continue to push down that road, and you have to believe. But I think it's, you know, there's a lot of, with any startup or any technology, there's a lot of outside factors that you don't know. Like I would say like, you know, hey, we didn't know there was going to be a 100-year pandemic that would happen, and everyone would be at home, and everyone would become an investor, and everyone would start asking questions like, well, what happens when governments print trillions of dollars? And so I think, you know, there's a lot of companies that benefited in a way from that, you know, and some that maybe didn't. And like, maybe some of that's getting unwound a little bit right now. But I would say, you know, the world moved forward from a technology standpoint and a software standpoint much quicker because of that. And so I would say like LunarCrush definitely saw the tailwinds from something like that for sure. But that doesn't mean, that also doesn't guarantee success in any way. Were you in the right position at that moment to have the tailwind at that right point in time? Did you have the team that could sustain through that? There's a million different factors in so many different directions, whether it be professional, partnership, personal, like all those things. So I always say there's a million different ways to fail, and there's a couple ways to succeed. And so you just have to kind of line yourself up to take advantage of those moments when they happen.
You're correct. Yeah, right. Thanks for sharing the story of that one. Yeah. So Joe, I'm actually the user of LunarCrush. You know, I've been using it every day to find out who's the most influential person on each project, right? So there's a lot of Web3 project out there. I would say too much project, right? It's sometimes super complicated for us to find out how to be involved in this project. Who can join to LunarCrush? In what way? You know, like as a Web3 user, how can we be involved in this, your platform, LunarCrush?
Yeah. And I mean, anyone can join, right? So like the way that our model works is, you know, we have Lunar token, right? And that token basically gets you rights and access to different levels on the site. And those levels gives you access to potentially more data, insights, alerts, and all the different kind of sets of information that we have today. And so we're going to continue to kind of build out on that model. So anyone can join. And like I was saying before, there's a lot of different use cases, right? And I think the fun part about crypto and kind of where it's been and this kind of part of the growth phase of the industry where there's, you know, a lot of tokens and, you know, like a lot of chains, a lot of layer ones, a lot of things going on is, you know, it's allowed kind of the mainstream investor to get access to things that are being built that otherwise they would not have had access to, right? Like an example I use a lot is, you know, like a Coinbase or something like that, where, hey, there's like a VC or someone that, you know, ended up putting $300,000 into Coinbase, and, you know, maybe they liquidated right when it went public and they made $2 billion, right? Like with crypto, that democratizes opportunity a little bit, where like, what would happen if a bunch of people put $5 in and maybe they got like, a new house. It's like, that's kind of a cool thing to think about. And so that's the way I kind of think about the phase of crypto that we've been in. And then I think we're going into this new phase. But a lot of people come onto LunarCrush, whether or not they've been an investor in the space or they own tokens or they're part of a project, to just know what's happening in real time, right? So it's like when you're on like a Twitter or a Reddit, or you're looking across YouTube, like as a human, you can't possibly see 1.5 million, posts every day or 2 million posts, right? And like, it's just not possible. So it's like you're only seeing what's in your feed. Even then, you can't possibly follow every single person and see what's going on either. And so if you're into crypto and you're into the space, you want to know crypto specific data and what's happening in real time. You want to know if there's news that breaks. You want to know if someone's posting something, because the way that news is kind of disseminated now, when you watch TV, a lot of times, if there's commentary on a piece of news, like it's what they're pulling up on the screen is a tweet from a subject matter expert in that specific space. Like the news has already happened and the smartest people have already commented on it. And by the time you're seeing it on TV, it's late, right? So that being late with investing is potentially pretty costly or pretty lucrative. And so how do you kind of keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on in real time? And how do you, pull out things like spam and bots and organize that data in the right way? And so a lot of people are using LunarCrush for that. So they go on our dashboard and they're just favoriting and following things, and they're seeing what's coming on that's contextual and relevant to them, or they're looking at it from a global standpoint and seeing, what other like maybe larger impacts are happening in the space. They're following different projects. Maybe they're tracking their portfolio. Maybe they're diving down a little bit deeper and trying to understand which influencers are there, maybe market volume, some of those market metrics. We have alerts that people can set. So across our 23 metrics, you can set an alert that says, hey, is Litecoin have social engagement that's the highest it's been in 60 days or 30 days or this hour? So there's a million different customizations where you can set that stuff and start to kind of, build out your own, alerting system, because everyone's strategy is different. Maybe you're a swing trader, maybe I'm just buying and holding and trying to find something really cool that I like. And then we have insights as well. So as opposed to you going in and kind of customizing everything, what we're doing is we're trying to kind of tease out the anomalies that we see across some of our insights. And so we launched a V1 of that. That's pretty cool, where we're just kind of like throwing insights at you that we see. And we're going to keep kind of dialing that in where, we're going to try to pull out as much as we can. And so a lot of different aspects to really go there. And, when you're on LunarCrush, you're really kind of feeling like you're seeing more. You're seeing the market, you're kind of feeling the pulse of it. And, I think as any, a lot of traders know, or a lot of people that are investors or people that are just following are interested, that's what it's kind of about, is that kind of pulse of what's happening. And then, certain people are just kind of coming in and they're the, people that check their 401k at the end of every year, and then they throw it in the trash and they're done with it. And they're like, I'm, 40-year person, which is great. That's like actually probably what you should be. But for us, we're not really making recommendations or making calls. We're just saying, here's the data, here's the insights, like go at it. Like you're an intelligent investor, you're an intelligent person, you have a specific strategy, everyone's different. And we want to make sure that we're just providing the transparency and the protection to the people that are out there, because crypto is hard. It's, a lot of people don't even know how a credit card works at first. Yet now we're trying to be like, oh yeah, like toss a bunch of money into this DeFi platform that you don't even know where it goes, or like, send money across this bridge. And when you look on the, you look on the block explorer, it says like, black hole. It's like, I don't know who came up with that, but it's like, it's tough. And so what we're trying to do is kind of distill the noise down to a little signal for people and just make it easier.
Cool. And Joe, one of my viewer asked me a couple questions, and they asked me to